Welcome back, everyone. Super excited for another episode of It's Bigger Than Me. And we're still continuing on the relationship series. So this time around, I'm really excited to dive right into what we're going to be speaking about today. So whether you are listening on the podcast or you are following us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we are on all platforms. And I'm really excited for you guys to be here with me tonight. So what we're going to be diving into for this relationship series, this particular episode is talking about, is a relationship, or are the relationships you're in a liability or an asset? And you guys, this really hits home for me because I see a lot of people in my life that are in these toxic relationships, and really the only reason they're still in them is because it's comfortable, because they do not want to be alone. So going on that, there's so many people that come into our lives, right? People that come in from our jobs, from school, from church, from this and that. There's so many people that are surrounding us. And then there's people that we choose to engage with. Now, believe it or not, there are people in your life right now that are probably not even supposed to be there. There are people out there that God designed that you were not supposed to meet, but they've entered into your life and now they've altered things for you. What does that mean? What does that mean? Let's take this, for example. I'm going to hit it right off the top, something really hot. Single parents, moms and dads that weren't supposed to be moms and dads at that time, laying down, having sex, having a baby illegitimately. Now, bringing a child into the world, there is nothing more pure, more exciting in having that. But too many single parents out there, single dads, single moms. And honestly, when is it going to be enough? If you're a single parent, you're going to have your reasons. You're going to justify it for whatever that may be. But you brought a child into the world and immediately it's a broken family. Unless, you guys decided to marry each other. And I really hope that if you do decide to get married after you got her pregnant, or, after, you are pregnant, if you're the female in this situation, I hope you really do love each other and you're not just doing it for the child. And so many people do that. And it breaks my heart. And here's the thing. A lot of people, will have sex with other people, get in relationships, stay in relationships for long periods of time because they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be alone. And so at that point, the toxicity gets so real. And I'm going to speak on experience. I have been in certain relationships for 2 years, 4 years, year here, year there, because I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be alone. I was in a relationship where I was physically, verbally, and, mentally abused. And I was in it for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. Thank the Lord no baby came out of it. Thank the Lord nothing came out of it. No marriage, no nothing, because talks were brought about, because when feelings come about, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the one. This is the one. But that relationship turned out to be a liability in my life because it cut me off from all of my friends, cut me off from my family. Family hated it. They were like, you're always over there. You're never with us anymore. You're like, it's like choosing sides. And when you're in a relationship, it should never be choosing sides. I have people in my life right now that have been in relationships for years. And it definitely is like a side choosing situation. And that's when you have to ask yourself, like, is this really going to be worth it? Is this person worth it taking me away from my family? Especially when you live in the same state. Now, if you lived in different countries, different states, I get it. There's going to be space in between. But it's so sad when I see families get broken up because people get in relationships that are a liability. There's more out there. They don't know that they're worth more. They don't know if somebody's actually going to love them for them. And I talk about this a lot on my show. It goes back into personal development. How are you pouring into yourself? Because those liabilities, those relationships that are liabilities, it comes down to perception. And perception is everything. And if you have the wrong perception of somebody, that wrong perception could put you in a wrong relationship, can put you, like I said, having a baby with somebody you shouldn't have a baby with, bringing a child into the world and instantly creating a broken situation. And now that child is forced into something that they didn't deserve. And I bring that up because that is so prevalent in today's society. And I have sat back and I have watched so many people have broken families because of that. Now, there are people that have children out of wedlock and everything's fine. They figure it out. Everything's fine, right? No, I don't care who you are. It's not always going to be fine. Because I'm sorry, a woman, when she gets pregnant, this is just me speaking, that if it was me, if I were to get pregnant, I would hope that that man is going to take care of me. And if that man is going to lay down with me, have sex with me, that he is going to be man enough to take care of this child and take care of us. But there's a lot of men out there that aren't ready for that. But they're ready to have sex with you real quick. Short story. You know, on my Instagram, on my social media, since I build my business on social media big time, I get messages all the time from men. I'll put that in quotation marks, because men will come into my inbox and they'll say, you know, hey, you want to hook up? Hey, you want to have sex? Hey, you want to F you? You can spell the rest. And it's like, when did I ask for that? When did I bring that into play? I'm going to tell you this. Here's what goes along with that. People are having insecurities about other people that shouldn't be in their life in the first place. So immediately, I'm going to be honest, I thought, okay, did I actually do something to say that, to tell the world that I wanted that coming my direction? Because I'll tell you this, as a female, to have a man drop in your DMs to say that he just wants to hook up and have sex and that's all that it is for, do you not understand there are some women out there that actually still view sex as something that is sacred between a man and a woman? You know, and sacred, maybe they want to wait till marriage. You know, and I'll be honest, I did not wait till marriage. I'll be honest. But here's the thing. I questioned myself for a split second, and I was like, no, I know my brand. I know what I put out there, and this guy's just a pig. But guess what? You who is listening, you who is watching this right now, are you letting people that should not be in your life in the first place be a cause for insecurities in your life? Are you worth it? Are you pretty? Are you enough? Are you going to be a good mom? Are you going to be a good dad? This goes for men and women. Men and women, because too many times I see broken men out there because a woman really hurt him and he never healed from that. And then I see a lot of women broken out there because they're like, maybe this guy's the one, I'm going to give him everything. And boop, nope, he is on to the next faster than you can snap your fingers. And those are really extreme situations. They are. But we live in an extreme world. And again, I see too many people getting into relationships that are just liabilities. Relationships that are bringing pain, depression, anger, fear. And they're thriving. And I say thriving in a very loose term because that is what they're focusing on. Fear-based mentality that, oh my gosh, like I gotta do this, otherwise they're gonna leave me, or I gotta look like this, otherwise they're gonna find somebody else. And that relationship is turning into a liability because you are altering who you are to please somebody else that probably shouldn't have even been in your life in the first place. I'm going to say it again. Some people are in your life right now that should not even be there in the first place. And that is so powerful, because when I go back and think of the relationships that I've been in, you know, with these guys, I'm like, wow, that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened for as long as it did. But what do I take away from it? Because we're all, you know, God has given us the freedom of choice. You know, when I'm going to stop right here and pause just for a second, because when God looks at us, we are his prized possession. Prized possession. He created us in his image, and he wants us to live the very best life and how he designed it. Do you think he wants us to get in loveless relationships? Having sex with multiple partners, you know, and doing things out of selfish nature and desires when it really wasn't even ours to begin with? Because let's be honest, a lot of us are in relationships that were designed by us out of selfish desires and not designed by God. 100%. 100%. And, you know, we are God's highest form of creation. Why would we not act as such? Why would we bring ourselves so low? You know, now I'm gonna pep it up a bit, because we talked about the liability side of relationships, right? So let's go to the asset side. Now, I see a lot of amazing relationships out there. Me, myself, being single in this current state right now, where I'm at this day, I see a lot of relationships that I want to follow in their footsteps, only because I love the way that they did it. Not that I'm going to copycat, right? Because everybody has a different story. But if you're in a relationship that's an asset to you, you're going to be growing. You're going to be pushing forward. You're going to be happy, joyful, have great moments. Now, it's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows, quotation marks around that, as I like to call it. But here's the thing. You know when somebody's pouring into you, when they're supposed to be there. You get that feeling. And that's not just, I'm going to make that up in my head and justify it. And I'll tell you guys, I have, in my past, I have been a professional justifier. If I want you to believe something, you know, in my past, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to want them to believe it because I want to believe it too. And I want to make sure that, you know, we're all in this together. When really it shouldn't have been right in the first place. You know, and it's a catch-22. We never know if we're making the best decision at that time, but you know in your gut feeling, if this is where you should be. Is this relationship where it should be? And if you don't know, it's better to stay single. Because how painful is it to be in a relationship that you're not really sure, you kind of like them, you know, but you don't know if they're the one, and you're having all these doubts and questions, and you're in that for years. And then you break it off after years of being in that. How painful is that? Rather than just at the get-go, maybe a few months in, you're like, this really just isn't working out. You know, I care about you. It's just not it. And it's hard for people to hear that because they want to hear what's wrong with them so they can fix it, rather than you saying nothing, you're just not it. But then they automatically start having doubts and this and that because they're perceiving it in a way so it doesn't happen to the next person, if that makes sense. Because we all want to be wanted. We all want to be loved. But a lot of us are selling out on relationships that were not meant for us in the first place, instead of waiting for that person to come in and be that glue that you need. You know, let's take some examples. You know, if you want to do a pop example, you know, Beyonce and Jay-Z. Yeah, they've had some stuff in the news. They haven't been perfect, but that is a power couple right there. They know that they empower each other. And quite frankly, if you're a power couple in the spotlight, it has to be hard. Doesn't excuse any cheating or, you know, mischievous stuff on the back end, if that's even happened to them, for example. But it's one of those things where you look at that kind of a relationship, or you look at, you know, Grant and Elena Cardone, or you look at John Maxwell and his wife, or you look at President Reagan and his wife. Ronald and Nancy Reagan. You know, there's so many different couples that you can look to and know that they've probably been through it. They have grown through it. But it's something where they sit there and they empower each other. And then, gosh, they're even in the spotlight, which is 100 times harder. 100 times harder. And let's talk about social media for just a split second when it comes to relationships. Putting that out there, could that be a liability or an asset for you? Truthfully, on the liability side, I would say, yeah, it can be, depending on how you put it out there. Now, if you want to show people your family, you're on vacation, you want to do this and that, great. Now, if you put it out there as a way to air your dirty laundry, problems you're going through, I see so many couples bashing each other on social media, and then they break up, and then it's like bash, 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 bash. And it's like, what was the point of that? You literally just brought us into your mess when we didn't ask for that, you know? Like, go deal with it outside of the public, you know, go handle your business. But then you see ones that are truly an asset on social media, where if it wasn't for social media, I probably wouldn't really know about Grant and Elena Cardone, you know, maybe Jay-Z and Beyonce, people like that, where it's just, it's something where you see them, you're like, wow, that's powerful. Now there is power, there is substance, there is some, you know, there's some grit to it. Because I'd say the biggest thing when it comes, whether it's friendships, whether it's dating, this and that, and we'll talk about friendship, like friendship liability versus asset here in a second, because right now, obviously, we're talking about dating. But I just lost my train of thought. You know what? That happens. It's okay. So let's just move on to the friendship part. You know, how many of us have friends that you really love, care, and just would do anything for? But maybe on the other end, it's not reciprocated like that. You know, selfish friends. Selfish friends are a thing. They only come to you when they want something. They're not there when you need them. You know, they're not there at 3 a.m. when you're struggling through something or whatever. You know, friends are like family. You're just not blood related, or at least it should be like that. And if you have too many friends and it's not like that, then you should really define the word friend for yourself. Because sure, we got friends on social media, just because I follow you on social media doesn't mean we're friends. Just because we're friends on social media doesn't mean you can jump in my inbox and, just blah. There's levels to it. There's commitment, there's trust, there's growth, there's just depth. And I think depth is a huge thing in any kind of relationship, dating, friends, doesn't matter what. That depth is missing. Where we run on by and we're just like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm great. How are you? I'm great. Boop, that's it. I've actually tried to catch myself and stop myself from saying, oh, I'm doing really well. How are you? And go into some detail, because life is made in the details. And reason why even relationships as a whole even become a liability is because details are skipped over. People don't talk about how they're feeling. People aren't clear on what the objective is here. Objective for anything, very broad statement, right? But if you're not clear and you get into something, how do you expect to know what's going to happen on the back end? You should expect that to fail or not turn out the way you thought because you decided not to be clear on something. And you can't expect the other person to be clear because, again, depth is missing from every kind of relationship from what I can see. Not saying everybody, but just dating, whether it comes to dating, whether it comes to friendships, things like that. Or even in families. There's a lot of families where the depth is gone. Nobody wants to talk about how they're feeling. And I think that's what it boils down to at the end of the day is feelings and emotion out there. People don't know how people feel where people are at. So how's anybody supposed to move forward? Does that make sense to you? Clarity is gone because emotions and feelings have been ripped out of it. And my last year in 2018 is when I really, really tapped into my emotions. And I say that because I was very just kind of, I was hurt when I was younger where I didn't want to show emotions. I didn't want to talk about things because I didn't know if people would understand me. And I think that's a lot of us. And if that is you, definitely let's start that conversation here because it doesn't have to be you forever. And I'm sorry if that was you, where you've been hurt, where now you feel like you've been silenced because you don't feel like you're being understood. That's a liability in itself because you're not truly being you and people don't get the pleasure of knowing you. You're actually doing a disservice to yourself more than anybody else because you're not showing people your true potential and who you are as a person. And that's a liability. Because how are people really supposed to connect with you, support you, love you, be in it with you if you do not share with them? That's a liability. With you if you do not share with them. That's a liability. So back on the friendship train, there's a lot of people saying, oh yeah, we're friends, and I'm friends, and I'm like, but we're not. And they're like, Mom, how could you say that? I mean, you really don't know me. You haven't taken the time to get to know me. You have not. A true friend will see beyond the BS, be like, how are you really doing? I'll wait. Go ahead, I'll wait. They will take the time to listen. Listen to understand and to hear you, not listen to be the one to speak next. They'll really take the time to listen. And that is so key because a lot of us are hearing, but we're not listening. That's a liability. Are hearing, but we're not listening. That's a liability. Because if our agenda is so important, now we can't listen, connect, and support other people around us that are our friends and family, and I put that in quotation marks, then what are we really even here for? We might as well just be all on our own and not have those communities coming together. Honestly. So it really comes down to depth and clarity. If you do not share how you're feeling, if you do not share where it is that you are at, how do you expect somebody else that you bring into your life that should or maybe even shouldn't be there to understand you? Because on the dating train, kind of jumping back and forth here, but you might find, for a female, you might find a guy, oh, he's cute, oh, he's fit, oh, maybe he goes to church, or maybe he doesn't, or maybe he's smart, maybe he makes a lot of money. Okay, that's all great, but what about his character? How does he treat his mom? What is his family like? What is he like when he's at the office? What is he like when he comes home from work after a tough day? You know, all the things you got to understand on the back end, asking questions. And it's funny because I have friends that make fun of me because they're like, Molly, you've dated a lot of people. And I'll be honest, I've admitted this before in further episodes. I have been a relationship hopper in the past because I did not want to be single. But here's the thing. I don't know, in the last couple of years, those relationship durations got a little bit shorter because I got very clear. I'm like, this is what I want, and I'm going to ask these questions. You know, what do you believe in? What kind of family do you want? What do you do for a living? Which really doesn't matter. I just honestly want to know that you can provide. Because I can bring in my own money. Me as the type of woman that I am, I can bring in my own money to contribute. But how will you provide? Because if I'm going to be at home with the family and the kids and raising them, and then you come home from work and you help me raise them, I want to know that we're going to be good. You know what I mean? So, and what else? Where do you like to travel to? What are your likes, dislikes? You know, what's it like with your family? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to know a lot of things right up front because I want to know, am I going to waste my time? Or is this going to be worth my time? Because my time is valuable. And those are the relationships you want to get into. Somebody who is on the ball. And other people are like, oh, I got to wait. I got to take time. You know, time is precious. How much time are you really willing to spend on somebody getting to know them? And I know on the back end, you're probably saying it takes time to get to know people because I've heard some crazy study. It takes like 2 years to really get to know somebody. If I waited in every single relationship 2 years to really get to know somebody, that would take me a long time to figure out who's who. Because there's a lot of really good benefits of dating, but you gotta be clear. You gotta be clear on both parties. And if neither party, dating, friendship, whatever, is gonna open up and is going to really get to the heart of what they want, what's the point? That's just two people coming together to say that they're in a relationship to pretend that they're happy. And they're really not. They're really not. And that's why I've been single for so long, because it's like, what is the point of getting into something when I know that a lot of guys aren't ready for a woman like me? Somebody who's focused, knows what she wants, and I'm looking for an asset. I've had enough liabilities. Those liabilities have taught me a lot, helped me shape who I am. I love who I am. I've embraced it. That is key. If you want to be an asset in a relationship, you got to embrace who you are, and you really got to come into your own and know who you are with or without anybody else. Because again, I'm going to say this again, perception is key. And if you have the wrong perception of somebody, then you're likely going to get into a situation you shouldn't have been in, and then it's going to alter a lot of different things that you didn't ask for both parties. You know, and there's good and bad friendships too, right? Friends that'll get you into things that you shouldn't have been into. Friends that have different priorities that are going to take you away from what you should be doing doesn't make them bad people necessarily. It just, they're not your people. And you got to know who are your people. Got to know that. You might be like, how do I figure that out? Sit down, reflect, and ask yourself, what do I want? What does Molly want? What do you, those who are watching, those who are listening, what do you want? There's too many times we don't do enough self-reflection, so we don't even know what we want. Then we get into relationships not knowing what we want. They don't know what we want. We don't know what they want. And then what's the point? See how ridiculous that sounds? But it happens every single day. And that relationship, instantly a liability, where it's going to have more frustration, more anger, more pain attached to it the longer you're in it until you get clear on what you want. But if you want a relationship that's an asset, it does take work. It requires you to be open, vulnerable, trusting that the other person has your best interests at heart. And if they don't, then that should tell you that you got to move on. You got to move on. There's going to be other people out there. I think the funniest thing is I used to be there, and now I see other people going through it and struggling through it, is I don't want to be alone. I do not want to be alone because they find their value in somebody else rather than finding that in themselves. That's a liability. If you can't see your own value, how do you expect somebody else to see it? If I'm with somebody, if I have a boyfriend, say he's standing right next to me, and if I depend on him for value, it's like the water and the blood that runs through my body. If I don't have it, I'm not going to survive. Yes, we work better in pairs. Yes, I believe we weren't designed to be alone. 100%. But how can you benefit somebody else? Because when two become one, you got to make sure that each are having, it's an even split 50-50, that it's going to become a whole unit. Because too many broken people get with broken people. Gosh, that phrase right there, I've heard it and I've said it so much, and it's so true. Because people find their value through others, validating them, saying that they're worth it, saying that because of you, I feel this way. And that's not okay. Emotions are all over the place. It's not ever going to be perfect and easy. I've had times where I've really depended on other people to pick me up, make me feel good because I was feeling down. That's natural. That's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I know who I am and what I want. You're going to have up and down days. It's going to happen. But you got to ask yourself, when are you going to stop having relationships be a liability? Or the relationships in your life, get rid of those liabilities. Get rid of them. Cut them off. No more. And become the asset that you're looking for. Because if you don't have people around your life that are assets, then who are you hanging around? I was actually talking to a gentleman earlier today. Got a big event going on tonight, and I invited him to my event. I'm like, bring some friends. Let's meet some of your friends. He's like, well, all my friends are married and they're busy and they're this and that. I'm not really ambitious. They're not entrepreneurs, so I don't think they're interested. I'm like, who are you hanging around? If you want to become an entrepreneur, if you have that ambition, that drive, that goal, the goal-oriented mindset, why are you around people that aren't supporting that? Why are you around people that aren't going to push you and help you focus forward? Because then you're going to get stuck in a rut. And if all these people around you aren't in that same mindset, then really that's not going to help you thrive at all. So for everyone that's like, yeah, I have, relationships that are liabilities, and, I have been stuck in this relationship for a long time and it really hasn't served me. I want to just be able to feel good about myself and feel good about the person that I'm with. It starts with you becoming the asset that you need and that you want in somebody else. Because it starts with you. You know what you need best. And when we sit there and depend on other people to fulfill our needs, it really doesn't make sense, does it? Now, of course, asking for help if you don't know, seeking guidance, mentorship, that's different. Completely different. But a lot of people don't want to ask for help. They don't want to go see somebody. They don't want to talk to other people about their stuff because they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about people about my problems. I don't want people to know. Again, that comes right into, you got to be open. You got to have depth there. Nobody can get to know the real you unless you share you. And that's what I think is the biggest hurdle for me that I've gotten over, is that I didn't feel like I was understood. And I mentioned that earlier. I did not feel like I was understood for the longest time. And I'm sure a lot of you listening or watching this have felt the same way at some point. It happens. But I really discovered that people were vibing with my energy, that they really did understand me when I decided to be open and vulnerable. And you can see that plastered all over Instagram and Facebook, and how I choose to pour in and spill out my personal development in my posts. There's vulnerable stuff in there. Say that 10 times. Vulnerable stuff in there. Emotions, filled with emotions. Anger, joy, hurt, triumphs, just a lot of really great stuff. Good, bad lessons, it doesn't matter, because life is full of it. And social media is such a great platform to show people your journey and to be open with them, because a lot of us are out here scrolling on social media, scroll right through our phones, computers, whatever, iPads, and we're not even connecting anymore. Social media is designed to connect with people, but it really has even made us more distant, because it gave us an excuse to be online rather than be in person and engage in a belly-to-belly conversation. So luckily, I love the feed that I have created, on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so many different other social media mediums, because I decided to have people that are only going to pour in my life. Those are the people I'm going to follow. Those are the people's posts and videos and stuff that are going to come up on my page, because I want to see that. Because that's going to add value. That's going to be an asset to my life that then I can transfer that into other people, and it has a positive ripple effect. True. Positive ripple effects are everywhere, and so are negative ones. What kind of ripple are you creating? So you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this episode on the relationship series. Again, this is episode 2. Super excited for everything to just really unfold going forward in this relationship series, because a lot of value is going to be dropped. Guests that I'm going to be bringing in, it's going to be super powerful for everyone listening, watching, and I hope you get some value out of it. And so whether you're listening to the podcast, reach out on social media, let me know what value you got from it. If you're watching this on a platform where you can comment on it, drop in the comments what value you got from it, and don't just leave it there. Share it with somebody else. Share this podcast, share this video, share this post with somebody who could really use this. Thank you so much, you guys. Again, this is the It's Bigger Than Me podcast. If you aren't already, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, the main podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time.